a subculture, I believe, exists, even in with us as a kind of band and all the scene that is alternative or whatever you'd like to call it, is because it's not the mainstream. So we share a certain kind of interest or likes, and varied, not necessarily just because it's this particular kind of music, with a limited group of people. It's like almost like a niche of people.
Every year the bands that make it up change. Every year the bands that lead the hype change.
It's literally the people, the community, the communal feel.
Mela, f'Malta hemm diversi aspetti ta' dawk li ngħidulhom xeni alternattivi, għal fatt ġifieri meta ngħidu xeni alternattiva fiha nifisha ifisser xi ħaġa li mhijiex il-mainstream. L-iktar ġeneri li naħseb li teżisti hija ngħidulu l-indie, x-xena indie, għandek fix-xena tal-elettronika l-aktar. Issa ovvjament in between jew taħt l-umbrella ta' indie nistgħu ndaħlu wkoll mill-mużika punk, pereżempju mill-mużika reggae ukoll. Jiġifieri daw kollha huma alternattivi għal dak li huwa mainstream.
Għalija nowadays alternative m'għadux is-subcultures li konna naħsbu fih fil-passat. Alternative just mix ta' affarijiet underground basically.
Obviously it changes by time. There'll be some like a period of time where things are growing, and then it kind of stops. It goes back down, and then it starts again.
Every few years, there's a new group that come in, and it does expand a bit, but then the ones of my generation, generally in their late 30s, 40s, tend to drop out a bit. So I could say it is growing, but at the same time, there are some diminishing numbers due to generation gaps.
I think as more people got excited, more people started playing music. And as more people started playing music, more people started exploring different genres. And with that, then the subculture maybe, started growing into something more. Started pushing away, voluntarily started pushing away perhaps. That subculture created other subcultures. So all of a sudden you don't have a mainstream and an alternative, but you have an alternative to the alternative, an alternative to the alternative to the alternative. In my eyes, I would consider some subcultures as more alternative. I think perhaps when you think alternative, you don't think of these subcultures, even though they have been here before us and they will be here after us. Ironically, it's not what we think of. What we think of is what we're part of. And what we're part of is, or feels, quite fleeting because it's constantly changing.
I think any music scene is made up of the followers. Yeah, I think it's made up of both the fans and the bands. The bands themselves are fans as well.
The alternative scene really is 500 people, give or take.
Jek tmur event, isek taf more or less minn ħatara. Anka taf minn ħorganizzati taħħa jkun hemm daw.
Because we're small, it's easier to know other people. But because there's that shared interest, it strengthens the ties.
You know that the people who are watching you, the people who are there, who are part of it, are friends of friends, if not your own friends or family even. You know.
Element in Malta of extra familiarity, I suppose.
Whereas I think when we were younger, and I'm going to say it, it's true, people coming to watch a gig, it was like a bigger deal, and you could easily impress people with stuff like that, you know?
But you didn't know that.
I don't remember it being as prolific as it is today, as open as it is today, with all these events happening, with band members starting to, their own events, their own festivals.
Our starting point locally was very different, but because there wasn't a subculture when we started off. I mean, there was like the only other alternative band was a band called Stalko, which is Nightmare.
Yeah.
And they weren't a culture, they were just a one-off band. We didn't think we were part of a subculture locally because there wasn't. We were trying to be mainstream as much as we could be. Like we would do radio shows, we'd do TV shows, until we started then realizing it was a bit stupid to go on like, you know, Bon Jovi. So we went once and never went again. But what I mean is, nowadays, automatically a band, before they've even played their first gig, those parameters are already there.
And we had people who followed us even here in Malta when we started, but
it wasn't a
But
it was weirdos. It was really misfits.
mixed. It was really mixed.
Like some old 70-year-old guy who played the guitar, and then another it was very, very mismatched. Very, very mismatched. Like if you had to come to a Bing Rosing in the beginning,
for example,
it wouldn't make sense. And then slowly, like people started like taking central points by having a radio show or whatever, or organizing things, and things started coming together slowly, but very, very slowly. Yeah.
Things not only change from year to year, things also change from a venue to another. So let's say when Vigen was open, there was more of this punk metal scene going on. When Coach and Horses became more popular, it was more in the hip, alternative, a bit more maybe electronic, or you know. It also depends on what's happening, you know, in the time.
The venues thing is just important as well. I think in Malta particularly it plays an importance because there's kind of a lack of venues. So a venue that people see will really kind of host a lot of shows and just kind of take the lead will be somewhere that they frequent.
In order to have a decent, thriving scene, you do need at least one venue or two where people can actually crowd and hang out and stay, yes. Okay, there's Rat said, you know, no complaints about it. But still, it's not that kind of hangout. Coach and Horses it was starting there. And in order to breed a scene and to get more members, you have to have an established venue that's going to stay there, you know, for 20 years or even longer. Because what happens is if you have a place where people meet with common interests, then they'll actually bond together and then they'll start forming bands. In order for the scene to get bigger and more rich and diverse, you do need that one place.
ċara, il-differenza bej hangout u bej venue. Some venues can be just a hangout. Per eżempju, jaf ikollok il-ġugar, per eżempju, ma nix fejn morra nizlu ħal-ġugar. Kuna bċaħat najdu kelma, neħdu birra, you know, hangout. Venue is something else. Venue, inti, jekk għandek post fej tista' tilqa' live bands, ikun żball illi inti tinala f'ġeneru. Il-riżultati pożittivi ta' Django huma a bit down to the fact actually. Tal-crossover li qed ikun hemm fix-xeni għalfejn għax hekk idoqqu ir-ranch ħajinżlu mużiċisti mill-metal, mużiċisti mill-indie, mużiċisti mill-rock. Anke just the general public. Mingħajr ma trid il-membri nifisom qed jittiraw udjenza vasta għax huma stess il-line-up innifsu huwa varjat.
Look, in the indie scene generally there's always been this whole thing of image. If you dress a certain way, people are really quick to judge what scene you're coming from. You're like, oh yeah, the guy plays like in an indie band or an alternative band or whatever.
Space Boy Jim kon għedilu fuq hipsters speċi tal-li jissa ma tantx għada daqsek. Mux ma tantx għada moda, saret culture, ma dix subculture. Kulħadd sar hipster.
Dak iż-żmien pereżempju konna mora ħafna Coach and Horses. Qabel insomma.
Konna naraw eżempju li kien hemm it-tip ta' hipsters, so to speak, li huma dark hipsters li jħobbu l-mużika underground. U daw ma tantx qogħdu jilbsu daqshekk hipster, anzi dejjem kollox iswed plain, forsi xi band t-shirt. U ma jkollok xi tajt magħhom fuq mużika jew tibda magħhom fuq.
Esperti ta' kollox.
Kumbat ikun hemm il-hipsters
iktar koloriti.
Iktar eħeb jipprova jilbes naqa tal-moda ma mhux tal-moda fl-istess ħin. Jisma' bands li ma tantx jafu bihom nies. It's multifaceted din id-dinja tal-hipsters. U kienet influenzata minn ħafna nies differenti. U n-nies infushom mhux għassaċ jafu l-xulxin għax kulħadd ikun minn parti differenti tagħha. Inti f'moħħok tibda tara dawk flimkien. But when you get to know people, the person has been stuff għal dik. You just group them according to what they like.
Yeah,
Mhix
fun,
crowd waħda fil-verità.
The music or the people themselves do kind of dictate it, so they do kind of create a certain image in someone's mind, and perhaps that person might feel more comfortable acting or looking that way with their peers. I don't think there is anything wrong. I think it's just something that really makes the people in that subculture feel better because they feel like they belong to somewhere. So there's a flag, there's a uniform, really.
Naħseb illi jekk teżisti xi tip ta' checklist, again, u mhux xi ħaġa li qed teżisti llum, però naħseb li dejjem kienet teżisti li ta' ċertu età naħseb jien kull żagħżugħ ikollu dik ix-xewqa to belong to a gang or to a group. Automatically inti you find yourself drawn to like-minded people with similar tastes.
I think Buzz Osborne from the Melvins really said it well enough. The indie scene is the ruleless scene with the most rules. There's so many rules and so many just strata of living that you have to follow to be like an indie kid, you know? Over time, I think everyone grows to realize that they can listen to what they want.
Jien kont ħafna iktar one line għax ara kemm kienet iktar prominenti ix-xena barra minn Malta waqt li jien kont qiegħed f'dik il-linja speċi, fimt? You have an identity in a way. Illum isu dik l-identità waqgħet taħt siġra waħda, fimt? Alternative and you have everything together.
When I was younger, for some reason I had this mentality that like I can only like one style of music, and if you like it then we're like best friends, but like I can't like disco too, you know? But like as I grow older I'm like, wow, why can't I like this as well? And so I'm open to everything. It's not like, oh, you like Nirvana, you like Guns N' Roses, you like John Lennon, alright then, you're in, great, let's all meet up every Saturday. It's not, that's so stupid. That is so stupid. It is literally like, you know what, you have to literally believe everything in this way, or else you can't stay with us. Which is like literally like
a horse.
Just because you wear skinny jeans or thick sweaters or thick rimmed glasses doesn't make you an indie kid, and I don't think that even just listening to music that is considered indie or alternative makes you just an indie or alternative kid. I think it is just, there's this constantly changing criteria, definitely.
Like Coach and Horses, for example, there was a certain, like, oh, because I love indie, I really love indie, so let's have an indie party and let's have indie bands. And then, like, what? Another party happens and all of a sudden it's irrelevant. Like everything and all the paranoia and criticism that people felt of what they dressed there, like all of a sudden it was completely doesn't matter. Like we're dancing to Eminem at Coach and Horses. So
one thing about my generation which I did not like was that it had to be alternative only, nothing else. Everything was bad. Hip hop was bad, techno was bad, pop was bad. No, only guitar-based music. I would say the newer ones are more open-minded.
That's like, I guess, a cliche in every culture, in every, you know, that you kind of have to dress a certain way. But I think that in Malta it's not like a big issue, you know, well, around the world really. It's not like the 90s, you know, when it used to be into rocker, into raver, into hip-hopper. You know, it's like everybody's like mixing, you know. Although you kind of fall into a category, I think nowadays it's much more, you know, open and people accept, you know, whatever you are, whatever you dress like.
Things are changing and progressing in their natural way, I feel.
Just shows that people aren't rigid-minded anymore.
Nobody looks the same but does at the same time. I don't know, if you take, for example, I go to techno events and I go to band events and I go to festivals and I go to electronic parties, whatever. I dress the same. There is this certain blend, there's a certain acceptance, so people kind of merge, even, I think, wearing the same clothes, you know. It's okay to go to see a band and then go to see a DJ after. You know, what's wrong with that? So I think that might have an effect on people's behavior, people's clothes, their image. They seem like decent people that just want something new, want something different, that don't want to label stuff. Fuck labels, you know what I mean? It's just music, and that's what it's all about.
Pre-internet, you had your leaders, and those did dictate your fashion. Yes. Now I mean there's always a fashion that's going to be with youths always, but I don't think it's really that music dictated now, and I think it does cause a bit of a diffusion, but it does create a variety, and that's more interesting than a bunch of clones.
There is not one outfit because there's not one genre. There is a uniform, but really it's not a group, it's not a clique, it's just sometimes a couple or 5 people.
Id-dajfet ħafna il-fat li inti punk, il-fat li inti grunge, il-fat li inti one straight visioned man.
Maċċem dik ir-rabta li konna naraw qabel, ġifieri, li nara xi ħadd ngħidem da li besek mela da jħobb l-istess mużika li nħobb jien pereżempju. Forsi fi żmien ieħor konna jlek iva li ċertu ġeneri kienu they keep themselves to themselves u ma tantx ikollok crossover. Illum naħseb it has never been healthier il-mix.
No, there was a change for sure, because I remember when I started listening to new metal and I used to wear baggy pants and I used to go to Rock Cafe, I wasn't accepted there as a rocker. Now they used to be like, oh, you're into hip hop, what are you doing? Why you have baggy pants? So from those times, I think, yes, there was a big radical change. Once the internet, blew up, it's like everything changed in the music industry. There was this whole shift of things, so it wasn't just a Maltese thing. Maybe Malta just took a bit longer.
Kien hemm bands fej kienu ħafna iktar prominenti fix-xena. Fej bdew ħaltu żewġ affarijiet. Allura meta tħares il fuq lejn daw it-tip ta' bands kbar u tara kemm qed ikunu open-minded, tibda tittolleraħħa iktar.
Dat tip ta' versatilità, jien naħseb it can only be a positive thing. U hekk alla jrid tgħin biex ikun hemm iktar taħlit u l-ġeneri flok jibqgħu pjuttost il-ġeneri għalihom jiġu iktar maqudin, iktar ikun hemm xejn aktar ta' unjoni naħseb jien. Għax-xena tista' verament tisseħħ bħala xena kollettiva.
If you just pull to yourself and you don't create a community, the struggles are going to be massive. We need a community to influence other people. Only then can the community grow.
And that's why I mentioned before, it's communal and it's accepting and it's positive, and the subculture is not as minuscule as you think it is.
Why limit yourself to one style of music or one genre? Good music is good music.